Amy Posner here, and I want to talk to you today about a couple of challenges that I've been hearing a lot about lately. They're different challenges, but I think they have a similar solution. I want to address the issues of overwhelm and dealing with emotions that may be separate from your business, but still running your business effectively when you're not feeling so great. Okay, before we dig into this kind of meaty topic, my Magnetic North Mastermind is running for the second time round from July to December. There are still 2 seats left. It's a focused on you and what you want mastermind, like what's yours next to do, cleaning up the things that aren't working, including potentially pricing and niching, and making a plan for you and helping you see that plan through. We got great transformations for people in the first round. I expect the same thing for the second round. So if you're interested, make an appointment to talk with me about it by going to amyposner.com and choosing Magnetic North. Or if you'd like to see the case study to see what happened for other people, hit me up by email and I'll shoot it your way. Okay, so what I want to talk about, and like I said, I've been hearing a lot of people talk lately about overwhelm, about fatigue, and about, just not feeling great and not being sure how to handle that in their business. Now, I want to say, as I'm recording this, it's June 2021. I feel like there's a weird kind of COVID fatigue that's hit people. And during COVID, it seemed to be pretty reliably true that people were having like periods of intense productivity, followed by periods of not caring less, following by periods that were seemingly normal. But there's been a lot of ups and downs. And now that restrictions have loosened some places, there's a lot of new getting used to things. There's a lot of new normals. There's a lot of people feeling fatigued by doing the things that they used to do. Kind of surprising. People have like less tolerance for, being social. I just want to point out that it's a really sort of emotionally tumultuous time anyway. So that any of us are feeling like that is not really a surprise. However, in business, these moods come and go. Times when you feel really confident, times when you feel insecure, times when you just feel too busy, times when you don't feel busy enough, times when you worry about your skills or taking on a new project or making a change. It's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility. I actually think starting and running a business is one of the most courageous and rewarding things you can do. It's also one of the most terrifying and challenging things that you can do because, if it's just you that's running it, you're right up against yourself all the time. Your fears, your limitations, all of it. Now, the great news is that helps you to work through those things. And once you work through them, you grow. You stretch and you grow. And it's, you stretch and it's not like a rubber band stretching where boom, it whips back into shape. No, you stretch and you stay stretched. You know things you didn't know before. The ups and downs are natural. Unfortunately, not being so nice to ourselves is also natural. And human beings have a tendency to really trash talk ourselves and be very hard on ourselves and say things to ourselves that we would never dream of saying to somebody else that we cared about. So there's the emotions that come up, and it could be feelings of insecurity, the feelings of being an imposter, feeling of not being sure you're ready to get to the next level. So there's all kinds of fears that can come up. And then there's also the overwhelm, and sometimes the underwhelm too. But overwhelm usually happens when you've just got too much on your plate and it feels disorganized and you're not sure what you're doing, and your brain is sort of split in several different directions. Maybe it's, client work over here and admin over here and this thing you're supposed to do over there. And it just all feels like a big spinning soup, and it's very hard to sort out. And, sometimes makes you just want to, crawl under the couch and not deal with any of it. Not usually an option. Or you're feeling the emotions of, something that has to do with your business or something that doesn't, that's completely outside your business, but you still have to show up and function every day. And I think actually the reason I'm bringing up these 2 things, overwhelm and emotion, is because I think the solution for the 2 problems is actually the same. That's where a plan comes in really handy. Because here's the thing, emotions, and some of us are more emotional than others. I tend to be pretty emotional. And so, I can ride waves during a week of feeling really up and really energetic and really kind of down and lackluster. So I had to learn to compensate for those emotions or have a plan in place so that when I'm having a day where I'm feeling kind of blah and I can't afford to just, lay around and eat bonbons all day, I have to have a way to move forward. Same situation when you're overwhelmed and it's like, your brain is all busy. You need to have a solution. So if you have a plan in place, then the plan becomes your solution. And let me tell you what I mean by a plan. Let's use the example of copywriting, since I am a copywriter and that's something I know well, and this applies to any other profession. Any place you're solopreneuring, it could be web design, it could be photography. No matter what it is, what happens is you book client projects, right? You've got a few actions that you do consistently, either outreach or maybe you have inbound people coming to you, but you have people you have to handle, right? You have to talk to them, have a discovery call, decide if they're a fit. Then you have to create a scope of work or a proposal. Then that has to get accepted. And then it's kind of funny. I've put a lot of work into both those areas, like the sales call and the proposal. And then the proposal gets accepted and I'm like, oh shit, now I have to do the work. Like it felt like so much heavy lifting to do that work on the front end. It's like, oh, now I have to like deliver the deliverable. So when you do that and when you book a project, what you need to do is immediately book it into your calendar. Now, if you're asking the question, how do I know how much time it's going to take? Then the answer is you need to time everything you do. All different kinds of projects. It's tedious. I'll tell you right away. It's not a fun thing to do. This made it more fun for me. This little gadget called Timular and all these different patterns represent different things that I do. And so what you want to know is how much time something takes you. So say like a typical thing for me was to create a sales page or to create a lead generation funnel. And I know that it has various pieces. It may have ads, it's going to have emails, it's going to have a landing page, there may be a lead magnet in there. So I know, say for example, that takes me 25 hours to create. There should always be a timeline in the scope, or that expectation should be set. So if it's mid-June right now, and I know that takes me, say 25 or 30 hours, let's say 30 hours, and I know it's not the only thing I'm doing in a week, that maybe I can put in 10 hours a week. So that means it's going to take me 3 weeks. And then I want to add an extra week on because, what if something comes up during those weeks, or what if the copy's not quite where I need it to be? I want to build myself a little buffer. I will tell clients, good copy takes time. It takes time I've got to write it, it's got to sit and then get fresh eyes on it. And then it needs to be improved before it gets even to your eyeballs. And so what I'll tell them, so I think this is like, if I think it's going to take 4 weeks, I'll say it's going to take 4 or 5 weeks. And then what I will literally do is I will book the various pieces into my calendar, because it's not just writing the pieces. There's the research, there's deciding on the big idea and the themes and all the things that I'm going to do to write the copy. I want them all booked, and I want them booked sequentially so that I know what I need to do first and then what I'm doing after. And when you do projects on repeat, you'll start to know what you need to do first and you know what the order is. But unless you book it into your calendar, you can lose track so very quickly. So if I'm working 10 hours a week, I'll look at, depending on how you run your business, maybe you do theme days, maybe you do the half days where, half day is productivity and half day is other things. And by productivity, I mean like if you're a copywriter creating the copy, if you're a web designer, you're actually in there, doing design. You may not do that for 8 hours in a day though. You may do that for 4 hours, and then you may work on prospecting or client calls or, whatever else is in your schedule. Or you may be a theme day person who does, the client work on Monday and your admin on Tuesday and your sales calls on Wednesday. However you do it, you want to immediately book it into your calendar. And you want to book in everything else you've got too, even your personal appointments, because you need to see like, oh, it's all well and good to say it's going to take you 4 weeks, but where's that time going to come from in the 4 weeks? When you do that and when you stick to it and you start to track everything else you're doing, you can find out, are you wasting time or are you out of time? Because sometimes, that old stupid cliche, work expands to fill the time allotted. I think that happens sometimes. And I think, we can spend a lot of time sort of dithering around our computer and not being focused. And, this kind of work requires some intense focused time. And so it means time that you've got booked, time where the dinging and the pinging is turned off. So you're not, like Pavlov's dog, every time, Slack pings or Facebook does or whatever you tend to keep open, you turn everything off and you focus. And that's built into your schedule. And that way, when a new project comes along, you can look and say, oh, I don't have much open time until, 2 months from now. I can book you for 2 months from now, or, I can recommend someone else, where you could just say yes, 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 and then suddenly find yourself overwhelmed and burnt out. The other piece of this is the emotional piece. And so say you're just feeling down, or you're just feeling, I was going to say overwhelmed, but we've already talked about overwhelm. But, just say you're feeling down, or you're not in the best mood, or, something's happened either in your business or personal life that's thrown you off a bit. You can take a few minutes, of course, to think about that or to process it. I sometimes process stuff by meditating or sitting quietly, getting myself, back to a stasis and kind of a calm. And then I can decide what to do. But if I have it already booked in my calendar, it's way easier for me to go, okay, you know what? I feel really sad today, but I'm just going to feel sad and I'm going to do this because it's on my calendar and it's what I said I was going to do. It may be hard to get into it, but what I find is, okay, I can be sad and write a sales page. In fact, as I get into writing the sales page, my mind moves off of the thing that I'm sad about and it moves into the business mode. Now, I'm not talking about like if you've got some extreme situation, but I'm talking about like the normal, human ups and downs. And I think that they sometimes come more frequently when you're in business, because there are so many things that are going on, and there's so many interactions, and it's very easy to take them personally, even though they're not. It's very easy to look around and see, they're doing that, so, I should be doing it, or I should be here, or I should be there. And, you get into this comparison trap. You can go down the emotional rabbit hole from any of those things. This really simple solution for overwhelm and for dealing with emotion is to have a plan in place. What should happen there is it should allow you to see where you're spending your time, how much productive time you really have, and it should also indicate whether there are tasks you're going to offload to a virtual assistant. I think people tend to think, oh, well, I'll get a VA when I fill in the blank, when I hit this income goal, or I burn out, or I can no longer do this, whatever it is. And I think sometimes we don't hire the person because we think it's easier to just get the task done than have to onboard and train someone. It's just not true, for a couple of reasons. And one is VAs are relatively inexpensive compared to what you can make as a copywriter. So it should be affordable early on. The other thing is humans do not multitask. Multitask is this term that we use all the time now, but our brains do not multitask. Our brains deal with things sequentially. You literally cannot think about or process two things at once. And so if you're going from, oh, hold on, I got to pay that bill. Let me pay that bill. Oh, that reminds me. Did I invoice so-and-so? Hey, how long ago was that? Oh, let me go look at that. Oh, wait a second. There's my Slack. Oh, who's that? Oh, this is an interesting topic. And you're flitting all over the place. And it could even not be that kind of distraction. It could be you sit down to work on the client project and you're like, I'm not really getting into this. What else can I do? And suddenly you start distracting yourself instead of what I can do is stay focused and keep at it until I get into it. But the truth is, if you have this all booked and all laid out, you don't have to question what am I up for because of my mood, or what needs to get done. And you're not in this abstract position of oh, wait, this client project over here, over there. Because again, we can't multitask. There's literally, when you switch from task to task, your brain, it just doesn't switch very quickly anymore. And now you lose this time in between tasks because your brain is processing more slowly. And so it really behooves you, and this is good for your emotional state too, by the way, it really behooves you to just focus on one thing, get the one thing done, and move on to the other thing. I mean, it doesn't make you feel calmer just to think about doing it that way instead of all this running around and all the busy and all the overwhelm. This all comes down to knowing how much time everything takes you to do so you can make a proper plan, so you actually know how many clients you can take on in a month. You hear this thing all the time about you got to make six figures, or you're not serious until you're making six figures. And I think that's BS. I think you're not serious until you've got a business that you really like, that's working for you in a consistent, steady way. That's what I help people to figure out. It's there's an intersection of three things, right? You have the money you want to make or need to make. You have your skill set, how skilled you are, and that changes. If you keep practicing in any discipline, you get better and better year after year, and you can, there's more value there. You can charge more because you're delivering more value. There's the time that you have, and then there's the money that you want to make. And this kind of makes this, how do I do it? It's like a three-legged stool. And you can't have one of those things not hold up or the stool falls over. It's very important, I think, that you figure out who are you going to serve and how that's going to help you to reach those goals. So I hope this was helpful. I think the bottom line is that you can't really be loosey-goosey with what you've got to do. And I think the more you plan it, the more disciplined and focused you get, the more satisfied you feel, and then the faster you get, because you start being more efficient with your time, and you stop splitting your attention so much, and you'll find that you can concentrate and really get some things done. And some of it is just discipline. You build the habits, and then the habits stay in place. But I really strongly encourage you, if you haven't done it in a while, to time everything that you do, because that's also the way that you know what to charge and how much money you're making, right? If something took you 30 hours to complete last year and it's taking you 20 hours to complete this year, you make a third more money if you're charging the same amount. And maybe you've gotten enough better at it that you want to raise your rates. And so that the rate is commensurate with your skill level. And so, that's the way that your business is continually up leveling. But you have to know what you've got, and you have to stand back and take a look at it so that you can make that happen. So I hope this is helpful. Please time yourself, and please, please, please make a plan and book it out in your calendar so you can see what is really realistic for you. And you may just find out that your expectations are too high because we all have a limited amount of time, and you can only get a certain amount done. And that's kind of a good thing to know, because often I see when people figure that out, they're like, no wonder I feel so stressed. So then it becomes a question of, okay, how do we dial it in so you've got a business that rewards you financially and that you enjoy doing? And that's, to me, that's the goal of owning a business that you really enjoy. It doesn't mean it's going to happen in the first month or even in the first year, but if you have a plan, again, the plan, you're more likely to get there, and you're more likely to get there more efficiently. That's a wrap for today. Emotions and overwhelm, big topics. If you'd like to be notified when these episodes drop, click the bell. And again, if you're interested, have any interest in the Mastermind, as of this recording, there are still 2 seats left. I'd be very happy to talk to you about it if it's something that you think might interest you. Okay, happy planning. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.